Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Virginia City Council Chambers. This is a regularly scheduled City Council meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023, and the time is 5:30 p.m. Welcome to everyone who's listening to the council meeting at home today and live stream, and thank you for those who are here in the audience that are going to present to us today. Pam, would you please take the roll call?
Motley.
Here.
Friedlieb.
Here.
Paulson.
Present.
Beyondich.
Present.
Johnson.
Here.
Caranzelli. Here. Cuffey.
Present. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We'll move to item 4 on the agenda, which is a public forum. This is an opportunity for anybody that's in the audience that are going to come and address the council this evening. You're welcome to do so. So is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council this evening? Please come forward. And we have a microphone at the desk. If you just press the button to green. Welcome to the Virginia City Council, and would you please identify yourself for the record? Thank you.
Debbie Finn, my husband Mike Finn.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. We're here to voice some concerns that we have with the golf course. We live on the end of 14th Street, and we have some of our neighbors here too. And for about a couple of weeks ago, we went to a planning and zoning commission meeting to request a variance to put up a protective wall on our deck. And in speaking with them, they strongly suggested that we come to a city council meeting. We've lived in our home for about 32 years, and we have some grave concerns about what's going on, not only along the avenue that we live directly across from the chain link fence along the golf course, but our neighbors, John and Diane, live 2 houses in, and we all have concerns. I'm all for the sport of golf. I'm all for kids golfing, but over the years, we've seen a big difference in the clientele that's on the golf course and the way that things are handled.
Okay, thank you. Are the golf balls flying over the fence into your yard?
Yes.
Is that one of the issues?
They've
been doing that
yes.
for a while.
They've been doing that. You know, when we first moved there, we just thought, and we still do, think it's the best place to live. We have wonderful neighbors, loyal friends, but it's changed. The dynamics of the course have changed. The golf balls are coming into our yard. We've had many, many broken windows. Our siding has been dented. And in the beginning, I called a couple of times. I called the clubhouse to speak to the manager, and all I was ever told was, that's the risk you take for living by the golf course. And they assume absolutely no responsibility. It's been totally at our expense. But what really prompted me to come here is that our daughter was walking her dog, not alongside the fence, but on the other side of the street. She was walking back to our home, and a golf ball came at her full force, It didn't bounce and come at her. It came at her full force, split her head open in the back. Blood was dripping down her back when she came back to our home. She was taken to the ER and had a concussion. And at planning and zoning, one of the gentlemen said, somebody's going to get killed there someday.
Okay, if you could just hang on just a couple of minutes, and I think we may have some comments from the council. I know that you had an issue with your trees there.
Yes.
Right, and that property, and we did investigate, and yes,
Yes.
Councilor Paulson brought that to our attention, and we
Yes.
brought it to our city.
Yes.
And we took care of that for you, but the other part of it was.
And we thank you so much for that.
But the other part of that too is that Councilor Paulson did bring up, and we did discuss it, about how we can alleviate that from happening. And she did bring up the fact that there was an injury that was caused to her daughter. I didn't realize to what extent it was, but we're doing some research to find out how we can, that chain link fence is deteriorated significantly. And we had a fencing company that's supposed to come and fix it, but we're looking at putting some kind of a big net up, along that avenue area there. And that seems to be the major problem. And then along the street, along 13th Street, along the rock wall, where there's some of the neighbors have also experienced some significant golf balls in the yard and damage to their building and their cars. And we've made some adjustments to allow them to park on the avenue without any, without any issues with respect to parking, to alleviate that from happening. This is a grave concern to all of us, and I think we have to take some steps in which to try to alleviate that. I'll hold that comment for a minute, and then please continue, and then we'll go over to Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. The chain link fence that's there, as you know, is pretty dilapidated, especially right across from our driveway. And it's only about this tall, so it doesn't, the balls easily fly right over it. And I guess, actually, after my husband retired, he worked on the golf course for a summer, so he'd like to speak. He'd like to address the issue of the net and give his thoughts on what would maybe be better.
Please, sir.
You have to speak into them.
And your first name is?
Mike.
Mike. Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, well, when I first started working up there, they, shortly after that, they added a net fence there at the driving green, or at the driving course. And that thing didn't last. I'd be surprised if it lasted a couple of years. So, I mean, they're about useless.
What I can say to you, sir, is that there are other options other than the netting that's at the
Yeah.
driving range that would be available, that would be more durable, number one, longer lasting, number two, and removable when the golf season is no longer present. That can be put up just like when they put the fencing around the greens, they could do the same with that. There are products on the market that have been developed that are available to make it a lot more durable than what the netting is at the driving range.
Ideally, maybe a tall chain link fence. We get straight line winds from the golf course. They blow right at us. And we just don't know that a net would be effective at first. There's no doubt about that. But unless you'd be willing to replace it every couple of years.
Maybe I should have used the term barrier instead of net. So a barrier that would prevent the balls from flying into your yards. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you both for coming, and the Ellisons, thank you so much for coming. I had shared with the council regarding the incident with your daughter, and And then I had also shared, I think, especially with Britt, our city administrator, about the dent that you had passed along to me. So when we, I guess, had the conversation, we were looking, and I'd like to use the word barrier, because we want to look at what the best measures of protection would be, and that term would be barrier, so let's research.
I think the best thing you could do is stick up like a baseball netting or something,
Yep. And I think our city administrator had actually, we had directed to get some quotations on that, and I know that is being worked on. So I'm hoping that we can maybe have a solution, and I don't know if the Park and Rec Department was going to come back with a recommendation. Maybe them knowing that course a little bit better than maybe the council might know that area of the golf course, but I do know that we need to actually have an action step for public safety, for the safety of people walking, children biking. A lot of people walk their dogs in that area, and just or your neighborhood to be able to utilize your outdoor spaces safely without feeling that you're going to get hurt or harmed by a ball being driven into your direction from the golf course.
We get an
And
awful
thank
lot
you
of-
for saying that.
We
Yeah.
get a lot of kids out there too. Kids are probably 10, 12 years old,
Driving golf
and
carts.
they're out there by themselves.
And so I guess what I wanted to maybe address tonight is that we are trying to work towards something, and I hope we find something sooner rather than later. And I do apologize for what happened to your daughter. That's terrifying. And
It was. She initially thought she was shot. She came back to our house and she was just in shock. She didn't know what happened, but her husband witnessed it. And he actually saw the person who hit the golf ball, and as I said, it didn't bounce, it just came at her full force.
Thank you for that. And I think one more thing that I might add is there, if any incident happens within the golf, I think there's a at your own risk type thing if you're on the golf course, but is there any type of reporting mechanism we have at the city to take in incident reports when people have a problem? And maybe we could just share that. I don't know if do they go to our website or do they contact the clubhouse, or how does that work?
They contact City Hall, and then Ashley Paulson is actually our contact person for those kind of claims, and so that's who they should talk to and let Ashley know what's going on, so we can keep track. Yeah, the insurance company doesn't do the clubhouse doesn't do what, and then our insurance company would take over from.
So it would be something, I guess, and I'm just trying to share this also for the edification of the general public, if they happen to be walking or walking their kids are there, what have you, playing. If there is an incident that happens, then I guess we are asking to call the city and ask the department would be the city attorney's office. So to report any incident that has happened, that would be the proper step, and maybe we need to convey that a little bit better on our website. But thank you both for coming. And
I have one more thing, and my neighbor Pat Lund in the back will speak to this. Years ago, when they moved the clubhouse, the old clubhouse, to where it is now, Pat and her husband came to a meeting expressing concern over the traffic on 11th Avenue, and they were told by the city council that, oh, no, golfers won't use that road. Golfers use solely that road, and they fly down it, and they fly right through that stop sign that's down there. So I've held my breath for 30-some years watching little kids on bikes on that avenue. I'll let John and Diane.
Just to recap.
Thank you.
Please, if we just take a moment, just to recap here, it was brought to our attention by Councilor Paulson. We conveyed that to our city administrator. We're working on a solution to get some quotes to find what's the best kind of barrier that we can put up there to prevent that from happening again. And not that this would be a qualifier for that, but one of our second priority of next year's legislative session is to define the areas in which we can improve service and safety of the golf course, how it can improve the service there, how it can improve the grounds there. And part of that would be that fencing concern that you have. Not that would be a qualifier for that, but we'll be there seeking some funding, hopefully, and see if that's available at that level. But we'll get those quotes moving forward. And once again, we all apologize for of the injury that was sustained by your daughter. We certainly, our thoughts and prayers obviously are with her, and we hope that that never happens again. So we're going to make an effort to address the issue. We thank you for coming in. Do you have anything else you'd like to say? Sir, ma'am, anything?
Thank you.
Please come forward. And please state your name for the record.
John Ellison,
John.
1024 14th Street North, 29, excuse me. We live 2 houses up off the golf course. And just a little background, in the last 3 years, I've gotten 75 balls in my yard. 75. And being on the business end of a golf ball that's going at 130 miles an hour is scary. Got busted siding and dents in my truck, dents in the garage doors. So it's, when you're sitting outside in your backyard enjoying the day and these things come flying in there that fast, it's real concerning. So just a little background of what's going on. And I thank you for your efforts.
Well, we appreciate you coming in, and we'll try to make every conceivable effort to try to alleviate the issue. And as soon as we get some quotes back from our Park and Rec director moving forward, we'll have to figure out what the best way and the best mechanism is to prevent that from happening again. So, and we will certainly do that. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Councilor Beyondich.
Would you like to come up and speak first?
Oh, please come forward. Thank you. Yeah. No, what's welcome to the council meeting. Please state your name for the record.
Pat Lund. I live on the corner of 13th and 11th Avenue, right where the green is.
That beautiful brick home on the corner?
You would think that I would be a little safer. Well, I'm not. They come zooming right past my head all the time. I pick up lots of golf balls. I had a handyman staining my little shed 2 years ago. He got hit right here with a golf ball. He said, you know, in the comics you see stars. He said, I saw stars. And you know what the guy that hit it said? Did you see where my ball went? Not, are you okay? And this is what I'd like to talk about. You know, I've lived there 40 years, September 1st. And when we moved there, the golf course was, I don't know, you might say a gentleman's game. It was quiet. There was no swearing. There was no drinking. Not that I knew. There weren't people, peeing on the trees instead of going in the outhouse. And I sit on my deck and I listen to this constantly. I'm sorry, I hate the F word, but I hear it all the time. Why do they have to send the liquor cart out? I mean, if they want to drink that bad, let them bring their own. We don't have to help them get more drunk, because that's about what it is. And it's not pleasant. I love my home. I'm 82, and I'm hoping to stay there a lot longer. But I'm getting tired of having golf balls nearly hit me. And I say, one time I went over and stood on the edge of the deck, and it was a fellow and his probably 30-year-old son. And they came up to the green, and I said, you could at least ask if you hit me. And they looked at me like, what's your problem, lady? And went play golf. They don't ask, did we hurt you? Did we break a window? I've had windows broke, and if I didn't live in a brick house, I'm sure my house would be peppered. But yes, the golf balls, the fence, all that is very important. I would love it if that happened. But I also think, I don't know how you could do it, but the kids that are coming up golfing are being loud music, rap music. Sorry, I hate it. It's just noise, and they play it as loud as they can. Is that what golf is? No, it's a gentleman's game, and it's nice, quiet, respectful people. Hopefully, I don't know what you can do about it, but it's not fun. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe we do have some options in that regard. There's some policies we can establish with respect to who uses the golf cart, how music is played there. The golf liquor is out there during these major events. And I think one of the things that we can do that we haven't done and we probably should look into doing is making sure that we have rangers out on the golf course monitoring the activities and monitoring the behavior of those who are not acting in an appropriate manner on the golf course. Other golf courses of resort courses that are a higher quality usually have a ranger on the course to try to maintain pace of play, also enforce rules and regulations with respect to behavior. We do not have a ranger system anymore at the golf course. Maybe it's time we discussed implementing one. So thank you. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. And thank you for coming. As I door knocked in that and I live in that neighborhood, I walk that golf course every evening. I look down to see who's teeing off and where I should go, because I've had them whiz by me when I'm walking. So I appreciate you coming. I know there's many more than you, as I door knocked, that told me about sitting in their backyard and having golf balls bounce off the garage and go right over their house. So you're absolutely right. It is not just they're coming in, they're flying in. So I appreciate you bringing this to our attention and coming forward and letting us know. Thank you.
And what we'll do is once we find, decide on a mechanism or get these quotes back and figure out what kind of barrier we can put up there, we'll certainly let you know with the status and keep you informed as a progress of that as well. Anything else you'd like to add before we move on? Thank you very much for coming. Yes, please. Yeah. Come on up. Okay, go ahead. Well, we need a barrier to protect injury, and we need a ranger to monitor behavior.
Water and so forth.
Would you please, if you would, come forward, and I appreciate it, because I think the general public needs to hear this as well. So thank you.
I brought my grandson to an appointment today, a doctor's appointment, and the doctor himself golfs also, and he brings his 2 sons on the course often. It's a great sport, but as Pat said, it's no longer a gentleman's sport. And he expressed the concern that some of these kids were just dropped off there and it was anything goes. So thank you for possibly looking into that system.
We certainly will look into that, as well as the age-appropriate use of golf carts and individuals under a certain age golfing without an adult present. Counselor Freely.
So obviously, some kind of a safety intervention is imminent, needless to say. And so I'm just wondering, is it necessary for a motion to move forward, or is it already in motion for us to be moving forward with this?
It's already in motion.
All right, thank you very much.
Just for everybody's benefit. But the problem we're finding is the poles. There's a shortage of the poles that go with it. So I've been working with a couple different companies on the poles that we would need
And
for
the
that
height.
height.
Yes, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor Freely. Anyone else on the council? Thank you very much for coming in. Hopefully, we'll make some progress here and try to alleviate the concerns that you have. And once again, we apologize for the injury that your daughter sustained. Thank you. No, thank you for coming in, and come in anytime. You're welcome to speak on any subject, whatever time you need. Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else before we move on? Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, the consent agenda. The following items will be acted by one motion unless a councilor or citizen of the City of Virginia requests that the item be considered separately. Item 5.1 is the approval and corrections of the minutes of the following meetings. 5.1A, the regular council meeting that was held on August 8th, 2023. Item 5.1B, the special meeting that was held on August 8th, 2023. Item 5.1C, the public hearing that was held on August 8th, 2023 at 5 p.m. And item 5.1D, the public hearing that was held on August 8th, 2023 at 5:15 p.m. Item 5.2 is the adoption of Finance Resolution number 23-016, the schedule of bills. Item 5.3 is approved pay estimate number 16 to Casper Construction for the 2021 Street and Infrastructure Improvement Project in the amount of $158,348.50. Item 5.4, approved pay estimate number 17 to Casper Construction for the 2021 Street and Infrastructure Improvement Project in the amount of $103,508.34. Item 5.5, approve the travel request for Ryan Maloney, a police officer for the City of Virginia, to attend the TASER Instructor Refresher Course October 10th, 2023 in Blaine, Minnesota at a cost of $495. Item 5.6 is approve the 2 a.m. liquor license for K-Core Incorporated, doing business as Mel's Sports Page Bar and Snickers Pizza. Item 5.7 is approve the one-day transient merchant's license for Jessica Rasmussen, doing business as Celebrate Aurora. And 2 additional items that were added to the council meeting and the addendum. Item 5.8, approve the travel request for Brianna Coughlin, from the Intermodies Event Center, our event marketing director, to attend the 2026 World Junior Hockey Site Selection Reception September 8th and 9th, 2023 in St. Paul at a cost of $609.83. And finally, item 5.9, approve the exempt permit application for the Revive Virginia to conduct a raffle at 510 Chestnut Street on September 16th, 2023. These are the consent agenda items before the council today. Looking for council action.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Councilor Johnson moves to approve the consent agenda, and it's supported by Councilor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
I would like to pull 5.5 and 5.8 for discussion, please.
Okay. Councilor Paulson moves to, for further discussion, item 5.5. I'm sorry. Councilor Beyondich, I apologize, to move 5.5 and 5.8 for additional discussion. All those in favor of approving 5.1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 9. Further discussion, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just have one point of clarification on what 5.9 is for.
Okay. All right, we'll get a clarification right now. We'll hold the request for the vote until we address all these issues. So let's start with item 5.5, Councilor Beyondich.
you. This travel request is not approved by anybody, and is it a necessary, I'm assuming it's a very necessary training. Is it an ongoing training?
This is a train the trainer training. So we send one, I think it's actually 2 employees down over the year, and then they come back and train the rest of the staff.
Okay, and then this will be signed off
Correct.
before this takes place.
Correct.
And the other one is the travel request. Is this for going down to the junior hockey site selection reception? Have we been selected?
As it says in the email, there's 4 other cities that we're competing with. We haven't been selected yet. They're coming to site visit all the other states. So it's coming to Minnesota, Tampa, Las Vegas, Seattle, and St. Louis. The committee is.
So is this meeting being held, it's in Minneapolis, are they coming up to see the facility?
They're coming to our state because this is the world championship. So they're coming from all over the world to Minnesota to look at our state first.
Okay.
Then they will select from there where the location they go to.
Lastly, funding for this. After our audit report, I really hesitate to move forward with a lot of this until I know, I mean, we have yet to see where we are for this year. And after the brutal report we got, I have a really hard time with travel. So how is this, where is it coming from, how is it funded?
Are you talking about 5.8?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sherry?
This would come out of the Iron Trail Motors Events Center budget, Fund 260.
And what is the balance in that fund?
I do not know offhand. I did send everybody the financials last week. Iron Trail Motors should have been in there.
I will be addressing this later in the meeting also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify under 5.5 as well, a TASER instructor course, that's part of the Minnesota Post Board's requirement for training for all officers. Instead of sending all officers to Minneapolis, there's a train-the-trainer opportunity for an officer to train the rest of the department, which saves a significant amount of money to the department. At the same time, qualifies and complies with the Minnesota Post Board rules. Councilor Paulson, clarification on item 5.9, is that correct?
That and as well as an additional comment on 5.8.
Okay, well, let's go with the additional comment on 5.8, and then we'll move to 5.9. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I believe, Sherry, we are receiving those. But the last one, I don't know if you're referring to the snapshot, bird's eye view of the city's current finances, or if you're referring to the last month's financials.
Last month's financials, July.
Okay. And at that point, this is not, it's not a budgeted item, and we are.
I don't know if I would say it's not a budgeted item. What you'd have to do is look at the travel and registration line item in their budget and see if they're over. And I'm sure they're probably over altogether in a deficit because that's the way they were budgeted.
Okay, so if we go through, let me just type in financials, because this is important as we go forward with approving these, if it's a budgeted item or not, doesn't, I mean, are you saying that there should be a line item under the ITMEC monthly financial?
Sherry?
Sure, I'll be with you in a second. Line item 260-45110-2331 is the object code, travel expense. 334 is registration fees. Those are the 2 line items that it would be coded under. But overall, if you to go down to the bottom of your monthly financial,
Go ahead. You're good.
good,
You're back.
thanks. You will see revenue, expenditures, and then the net. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're in the negative, in the net. That means they would have to stop spending altogether right now.
So that's the information that I'm looking to have in front of us when we put forward these travel requests. So at this point, I won't be supporting this travel request. But, I mean, I so appreciate you send these. I think we need to do a better job, though, understanding, like, when these requests come forward, are we in the hole for that particular line item in any department's budget? I think that's just super important for us to know as we move forward with any travel request going forward. So at this time, I wouldn't support that. And then if you don't mind, if I go back just to confirm what we're approving as an exempt permit application to conduct a raffle for, I guess, which event? And that was the other thing I just needed
Here,
to clarify.
item 5.9. Britt, have any information on this?
Yep, that's Revive Virginia is looking to do a raffle during the food truck festival. They'll be doing a 50-50 split the pot raffle.
Okay, so I'm fine with that. I would, I guess if we need to vote on what's on the floor, I would like 5.8 to still be pulled out to vote on that
We'll
separately.
separate them out.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Paulson. Councillor Johnson?
You, Mayor, when we created the position for marketing, when we talked about the building in the past as we've been moving forward, again, we knew there would be a deficit in the building. We knew it would take several years to break even if we were lucky. We're already way ahead of that. We will never break even if we do not send our staff to where they need to market, to network, to talk to other people. This is a huge opportunity for us to sell the Iron Trail Motors, not only to the World Hockey folks, but everybody else who's going to be there. There's going to be hockey people there, according to the email, from all over the state. This is a phenomenal opportunity to invest $600 and some staff time in returns that could be uncalculable. We have asked our staff to do a job, and we need to support them in doing that, and a $600 travel request is to me minimal. The other thing is that in the budget, we can move money around. Brian and his staff can say, well, we don't need as much paint this year because we just bought paint last year and we have leftovers. Let's move the money around. The budget is not a stagnant in stone document that was meant to be live and die by. It's a guideline for the year. And as we spend money in places, we shuffle, we move things around. It's just like, it's just like at home. Gas prices go up. I might buy a gallon less of ice cream because I have to spend $5 or $10 more in gas to get to our appointments. So I think that we need to trust our staff and know that they are on top of their own budgets, that they are doing their jobs efficiently, and we need to be sending a representative down to the World Junior Hockey bid meet and greet so that that person can meet and greet people and hopefully advocate and for bringing not only this, but who knows how many other events to Virginia. So I will be supporting that wholeheartedly as we move forward.
Thank you. Okay, looking for a motion to approve items 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.6, 5.7, and 5.9, and withhold 5.5 and 5.8 for a separate motion. Looking for a motion for that.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Motley. Is there support?
Support.
What, you had a motion? Okay. Okay, so there's already a motion on the floor for those. Okay, I apologize for that. So there's a motion by Councillor Johnson and supported by Councillor Barnzelli for those items on the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Pam, were we pulling though 5.5, 5.8, and 5.9? So are we voting on the rest of those, or are we going to include 5.5 and 5.9 as being discussed. And we're,
We pulled 5.5 and 5.8. You asked for a clarification on 5.9, which we received. So we would be voting on all those except for 5.5 and 5.8.
okay, thank you, Mayor.
That make, okay, so that's the motion on the floor, and there's support for that. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Move back to item 5.5 is approve the travel request for Officer Ryan Maloney to attend TASER instructor refresher course October 10th, 2023 in Blaine at a cost of $495.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Beyondich. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. And the last item on the consent agenda is item 5.8, looking for a motion to approve the travel request for Brianna Coughlin to attend the 2026 World Junior Hockey Site Selection Reception September 8th and 9th, 2023 in St. Paul, Minnesota at a cost of $609.83.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich.
I'll go over it one more time. So we have not secured this.
No, because part of the process is they go to each state and that is on the list and look at the state and see what we have, see what people would do here in the state and what's to offer.
So there are many other entities that are vying for the same thing.
All over the world. But we've made it this far to the site selection. So we've passed the round, we put the application in, we made it to the second step, and this is now the second step.
I know the importance of this, and I also know the importance of a budget. And when it's over budget all the time, and yes, we were told that that was going to happen, but I can't discredit our auditor who does this, who, and I'm going to address more of this later in the meeting. Yes, it's a living, breathing document, but numbers are numbers. And we are told in this paper what we need to do. This is our job. These are important decisions to make on the city of Virginia. I do want this, I mean, we need to fill that building, but I often wonder when I ask where is the money coming from, there's always an answer. This audit told me otherwise, and it makes me very nervous. I'll be honest, I'm nervous about what we're doing, and where is the money coming from. So I'm kind of torn on this one. We need it because we need to fill that event center. Where is it coming from? I just don't want to put burden on our taxpayers. So I'm just torn. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. So for clarification for me, so this is a meet and greet, and we are vying for this opportunity between Tampa, Las Vegas, Seattle, and St. Louis. And is it specific to Virginia, or is it other places in the state of Minnesota? Okay, so there are other places in the state of Minnesota. We have not secured this. It is a meet and greet. And it does state in here, we would love to have you in person, but if that's not possible, we will also be sending out a Teams link so venues could join virtually. But we think that it will have a greater impact if you are able to come in person and speak with USA Hockey. During the meet and greet, we will have a slideshow with photos of each site and some information about the venue. But we would like to have each site representative tell USA Hockey a little bit about the venue and their hockey community. So, I mean, I guess I can see the value in doing this. But what I will say is we have not budgeted for this expense if we are currently in the negative or in a deficit for our travel expenditures. So I think I'm still at the point where there is a virtual option that is available, and although it's probably not quite as effective, we just lost the SME conference going back to the deck, and I feel like we need to do a better job at we need to really kind of address what's going on with the Iron Trail Motors Event Center first and foremost. But what I would say is that we are in a deficit. This is not something budgeted or planned. And so at this point, I just can't support it, and I'm sorry for that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Counselor Motley.
I am also concerned after the audit last week, and I'm happy that there's an online version for this. I am struggling with the idea also of sending somebody down there. I mean, if we get this, this would be huge, but sounds like a pretty stiff competition. So at this time, I don't think I'll be supporting her either on going down. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Motley. So it has been moved and supported to move forward to approve the travel request for Brianna Coughlin to attend the 2026 World Junior Hockey Site Selection Reception, September 8th and 9th, 2023 in St. Paul at a cost of $609.83. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please, Pam.
Paulson,
No.
Beyondich, Johnson,
Yes.
Baranzelli. Yes. Cuffey,
Aye.
Motley,
No.
Friedlieb.
Aye.
Motion fails 4-3. And before we move on to the next item on the agenda under appearances, I understand where everybody's coming from with respect to the budget and how we move things around, what's available, what's not, try to maintain a travel budget. There may be money to move around, as Councilor Johnson indicated, but under normal circumstances, I wouldn't offer this, but in this particular case, I'm going to ask the council to approve Brianna Coughlin to attend this reception with funds paid for by a private party. Looking for that motion.
Moved.
Moved to approve by Councilor Friedlieb and supported by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
So this will not come out of the city funds.
It'll come out of a private party.
Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. No city funds will be allocated. We're just approving the employee of going down there at the expense of a private party. Okay, it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would need some clarification. What's in our packet is they have a mileage and a rate, 386 miles, the mileage rate, the cost per night, 150, meals, 57, a total of 609.83. So are you just asking the council to approve allowing our employee to attend, and that's it?
At no city expense.
And then what is the liability at that point? Do we have a liability on the city's behalf if we approve this request?
Britt?
Like any other employee, I mean, she technically would be working down there, so she would be there representing the city. We would expect her to act like she's representing the city, and so she would be there. It would come as a donation. The private person would give a donation to the city to allow this person to go attend, is how this would have to happen.
Okay, and then I don't know if we have any representation from our city attorney, if there's any legal ramifications regarding this action.
I think we have Brian on speaker. Brian, are you available to answer that question from Councilor Paulson?
I am available, Mayor, and I do appreciate it. It's a great question. I like the structure to the transaction that Administrator Sibenis suggested, that essentially the tuition or the payment for the training be accepted as a donation, and that would make the the role really clear as far as the fact that this employee would be representing the city, and essentially we could request that they behave professionally and all those things. It would also clarify application of workman's comp or similar liability features or insurance coverage should something happen as the employee was traveling or attending training.
Very good. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Paulson. There was a motion second? Okay, there was still a motion second to, so would you please read back the motion to ensure we're clear?
Moved by Counselor Friedlieb, supported by Counselor Johnson, to approve the travel request for Brianna Coughlin from the Iron Trail Motors Event Center to attend the
2026.
the site selection reception for the World Hockey at the expense of a private party.
Or would you prefer that to be at no expense to the city? What would be the proper? Brian? Brian?
I'm sorry, Mayor, could you repeat the question?
There was a motion on the floor in a second, and we're ready to vote to the motion to allow Brianna Coughlin from the Iron Trail Motors Event Center to attend this function. Would it be at the expense of a private donor, or would it just be at no expense to the city?
And I apologize, Mayor, it was breaking up just a little bit.
Better if we listed the motion as at no expense to the city or as paid for by a donor.
I think we would want to go no expense to the city.
Okay.
Or just indicate, I would go no expense to the city, and then we may want to have a separate resolution or motion to accept the donation of the tuition payment.
Okay, so who had made the motion originally? Councilor Freely, that'd be okay at the, she may attend at the, no expense to the city. Second as well. Okay, that's all, additional discussion. Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to remind this council that it's not unprecedented for city employees to go anywhere as a representative of the city without cost to the city. We did send a MAPE Union representative overseas as on city time, but it was all paid for by an outside entity. So this is not precedent setting, and it is not anything this council hasn't approved before.
Thank you. So that has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. On the second motion to accept the donation from a private donor, does that donor have to be identified?
I will move the donation.
Okay. Councilor Johnson moves to approve the donation of $609.83 to the city to allow for that conference attending by Brianna Coughlin. Is there support? Support by Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion?
I have discussion.
Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So when we're talking about a personal vehicle being used, that means that that employee gets the reimbursement for that. So that's not the actual cost of $609.83, because that $609.83 would be what the city would pay for that. So is a donation going to pay the employee the mileage?
All $609.83.
I just don't know how that's going to transact.
The employee would be paid like normal, which comes out of the Iron Trail Motors Event Center budget, and the donation would go into the revenue of the Iron Trail Motors Event Center budget.
Thank you.
So it would be, they don't align for line, but they would be in the same 260 fund. So we'll put.
Okay, that's all I was wondering, how it's going to be accounted for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Paulson. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed, Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move to item 6, appearances. There's no one scheduled to appear before the council this evening. This is an opportunity for anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council tonight. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward? Seeing none, we move to item 7, unfinished business. Item 7.1, the clinic lease. No change, we're still working. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, move to item 8, discussion items. Item 8.1, approve the second reading of ordinance 108, chapter 20, section 8, for vacation of certain streets and alleys within the second addition to Virginia.
I'll move to approve the second reading.
Councillor Paulson moves to approve. Is there support? By Councillor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.2 is approve the second reading for the proposed amendment to Chapter 6, Section 6.40, Subdivision B of the City Code of the City of Virginia entitled Secondhand Goods Dealer.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councillor Johnson, supported by Councillor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.3, approve the request from the Virginia Fire Department to close 4th Avenue from Chestnut to 1st Street North and the 300 block of 1st Street North Thursday, October 5th, 2023 from noon to 2 p.m. for an open house.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Councillor Paulson to approve and supported by Councillor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.4 is adopt a resolution authorizing the City of Virginia to make application to and accept funds from the Department of Iron Range Resources for the F&D Meets Interior Demolition and Renovation Project.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
By Councillor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.5, adopt a resolution for Rock Ridge Youth Hockey Association to conduct a raffle February 6, 2024 at the Iron Train Motors Event Center.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Councillor Freely, been supported by Councillor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.6, approve hiring a part-time parking monitor, Derek Chop, on or after August 22nd, 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Motley, supported by Councillor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Beyondich.
On our financials, does this parking meter bring in enough money to pay for the position?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beyondich. Has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.7, adopt a resolution for donation of the Memorial Park benches at Alcott Park.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Councillor Johnson, supported by Councillor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.9, 8.8. Adopt a resolution for donation from Brewfest for the Alcott Park entrance project.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Motley, supported by Councillor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Motley.
Thank you, Brewfest. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.9, in accordance with the city charter, mayor to appoint council committee to conduct commission interviews for commission openings. There are applications now being proffered for consideration for the Human Rights Commission. We also have vacancies in public utilities, the Charter Commission, Planning and Zoning, Vida Cable, and the airport. So we need to schedule, or going to schedule some commission interviews for those applicants for the Human Rights Commission. I think we have 3 applications, and we can have up to 5 on the committee. We have 4 now. We have 4 applications, excuse me, 4 applications for the Human Rights Commission. So I need to appoint a committee of minimum of 3 in accordance with the charter. It doesn't say exactly 3, but we should have an odd number, I would think. So I'm looking for volunteers to serve. Councillor Motley volunteers to serve, and Councillor Freely volunteers to serve, and Councillor Beyondich volunteers to serve. Now, we can have more than 3, but so far we have 3. Anyone else? Anybody else? Okay, I will ask, I don't need a motion. Do we need a motion? Looking for a motion to appoint a commission interview committee of 3.
So moved.
Interviews for the Human Rights Commission, moved by Councillor Johnson. I'm sorry, I apologize, for all commissions, excuse me, all commissions. So it was moved by Councillor Johnson, supported by Councillor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Beyondich?
I just have a question. The Charter Commission, how often do they meet? And who is on that?
There are 7 members, I believe, of the Charter Commission. We will have to get you the members of the Charter Commission. I am one member of the Charter Commission. There are 7 altogether, and they meet as needed.
Do you know when they've met last?
Last 2 years ago.
Okay.
And the reason we met was to discuss the change in the charter with respect to the Public Utilities Commission being autonomous or not. And at that meeting, the motion was made to move toward non-autonomy and have the city take over and oversee the Public Utilities Commission, and that failed to pass. That was the last meeting we had. You're welcome. Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then over to Councillor.
And then I know Pam sends these out, I think, at the beginning of every year. Could we have a refresher of how many commissioners commission spots are open? And then when, because I know, I feel like there's maybe 1 or 2 on Cable Commission that have, one that has termed out. So maybe could you just give us a refresher email on that at your convenience? I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Freely.
And in this instance, you said there's 4 pending interviews for all of the commissions listed?
No, we just have 4 applicants.
For human rights exclusively?
For human rights.
Okay.
Any other committee?
And 1 for public utilities.
And 1 for the public utilities. Right now. So send that all the openings that are available, and the interview committee will interview all these commissions, but the openings right now are 4 from human rights and 1 from the public utilities. So all those in favor of appointing Councillor Beyondich, Councillor Freely, and Councillor Motley to the commission interviews committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8.10 is adopt a resolution to set a public hearing for street assessments on Monday, September 25th, 2023 at 5 p.m. for the 2021
Yes.
Street Improvement Project.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Freely. Is there support? Support. By Councillor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.11, adopt a resolution to approve the hiring of 3 recreation assistants on or after August 22nd, 2023. Move to approve by Councillor Johnson. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
Support by Councillor Paulson for discussion. Further discussion, Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we need to list those, the people or no?
The names?
Do we normally list the names?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
I
certainly
think
do
we
that.
normally do.
You have them handy?
It's on, it's 8.11 in our, is that the right one? Yeah. Page 63 in our packet.
And those names are?
Gunnar, you're going to give me this responsibility. Gunnar Krumpetich, Ellie Gull-Bronson, Richard Mosley, and Park and Rec. These would be recreation assistant positions.
That's Gunnar Kromtovich, Ellie Bronson, and Richard Mosley. Thank you. Moved and supported. Is all those in favor signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8.12, approve the following variances referred from planning and zoning at their meeting that was held on August 7th, 2023. Item 8.12A, Marvin Development 6 LLC, also known as Taco Bell at South 12th Avenue, approve a placement of a 439 square feet of signage where 64 feet is allowed. And item 8.12, also approve the request to allow a 50-foot high sign where 25-foot height is normally allowed. These are recommendations for approval from planning and zoning.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? Support. By Councilor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Since it is now public information, could we share with the public exactly where the location of this company will be?
Sure, they plan on, go ahead.
On a pad near Caribou, it's almost where the mall sign is now. That'll be relocated and it'll be in that area.
Between Caribou Coffee and the gas station where the Franson Bank used to be. That thing. Okay, so it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.12B from Planning and Zoning, Michael and Deborah Finn, living at 1032 14th Street North, approve B1, approve a variance for the construction of a 6-foot protection fence on the west side of the deck that exceeds the 6-foot height allowed.
Move to approve.
A move to approve by Councilor Paulson and supported by Councilor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.12C from Planning and Zoning, Dan Norlander, 1431 11th Street South. Approve the following requests. C1, approve the variance request to allow a second accessory structure on the property where one is allowed and removal of the current shed within 2 years of the variance approval. You want to take these one at a time? Okay, thank you. That's number one. Item C2 is approve the variance request to allow a 40-foot by 32-foot, which is 1,280 square feet of accessory structure that exceeds the allowable size of 1,000 square feet by 365 square feet. The combined square footage of the accessory structure requested is proposed at 1,365 square feet of floor area. Item C3 is approve the variance request to allow the construction of an accessory structure within a 4-foot rear yard setback on the north side where 5 foot is required. And item C4, approve a variance request to allow the construction of an accessory structure with a 3-foot side yard setback east side where a 5 foot is required. Those are all requested by Dan Norlander. Those 4 items for discussion and motion by the council as recommended by Planning and Zoning.
I will move to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilor Paulson. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
By Councilor Freely for discussion. Further discussion, Councilor Freely.
So I would think that then there's been some conversation with adjacent neighbors that have agreed to this and are not concerned about that, and that's why we move this forward.
Jenny?
Thank you.
Bouvier?
Yep, thank you, Mayor, Councilor. There was no opposition from the neighbors received for that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Councilor Freely. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, under Planning and Zoning, 8.12D, Brian Arvela, 512 13th Street North, approve the placement of a 3 of 3 accessory structures on the property where one is allowed within the condition that gutters be added to the new structure to drain to the side yard of the property towards the alley. Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Oh, support for discussion.
Support by Counselor Freely for discussion. Further discussion, Counselor Freely.
And not to perseverate on this, but like, it's a little confusing to me that we're building 3 accessory structures, but gutters be added to the new structure. So I'm not sure which one of those 3 or that it matters, but that was a little confusing to me because it sounds as though it's just one structure versus 3.
Well, that's a good point. I think it might be all 3, but we'll refer to Jenny here. Jenny?
Yep, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me.
Thank you.
So yes, there was a little bit of confusion on that one. So there's an existing small shed that was moved to the property, and then a new garage that would be being built, and then another accessory structure, like shed. So it wouldn't be 3 new, it would just be 3 allowed. And 2 of them are in very close proximity to each other on the same like concrete pad.
So 2 exist, 1 new one?
Yes.
Thank you.
The gutters would be added to the new one to be able to drain
Correct.
away from the.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you much.
Thank you, Councilor Freely. Thanks for the clarification, Jenny. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'll move to item 9, committee reports. Item 9.1, the committee of the whole meeting that was held on August 15th, 2023. We'll turn this portion of our meeting over to our city administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Britt?
Thank you. At the Committee of the Whole meeting on August 15th, 2023, Mr. Matt Reed from SCH was present to discuss the construction that has started on the Silver Lake Trail Phase 2A project. During that construction, they did find several washouts underneath the trail. The washouts were found to be due to the concrete vault that holds the steam line and a water line that was crumbling underneath. The steam line vault was crumbling underneath the trail, so then it was causing some washouts. After some discussion with the public utilities, they did notify us that that line is shut down permanently and can be removed, and it was a good time to do that during this project. Therefore, Matt Reed came forward with a change order from Asab Bituminous for the Silver Lake Trail Improvement Phase 2A project in the amount of $51,600 to remove those utility lines in that vault. We have gotten agreement from the utilities that they will pay for that change order.
Move to approve by Councilor Freely, but supported by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson, then over to Councilor Beyondich. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Drove by there today, and it's very flat and looks really good. They're already working on it, so it's really going to improve that south side of the lake and the walking trail over there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. And thank you for letting us know that it is being paid for by the public utilities and not an add-on for ours. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Reed also discussed the proposed project we have for the 2024 alley repair project. The 3 alleys that were initially determined to be repaired, we held the public hearing for those 3 alleys, and during that public hearing, we did to speak with residents regarding 2 alleys that connect almost in a T-shape between those 3, a couple of those alleys. There was suggestions from the resident at the public hearing that we include those existing half alleys that connect between the alleys that we are going to reconstruct. After reviewing, it was noted that there are sanitary sewer lines in those half alleys, and after televising, it was also determined that they are not in good condition. Additionally, we don't have access to these, so to access the sewers in these T alleys, we have to go into the people's houses to get to them, so we need to put at least a manhole in there. After some discussion, we did give Matt Reed direction to proceed with the 2024 Street and Infrastructure Improvement Alley Project with option 4, which was to move ahead with the whole project, but leave the northernmost alley as an add alternate to determine what the cost is, and so that the council can make a determination on the project at that time. And thus, to do that, to move forward, we do need to adopt the resolution to set a public hearing for the September 12th, 2023 at 5 p.m. for the recommended addition of those half alleys to the 2024 Street and Infrastructure Improvement Alley Project.
Move to approve by Councilor Freely, been supported by Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, I have something to point.
Please.
We will be sending out the public hearing notices to everybody again, so if you've already attended the first hearing, the information that we're going to provide now is for those little T-alleys. So it's the same information, the same project, we're just expounding on it, so now we have to redo this hearing one more time.
Sure, everybody will notify, and the addition will be only to the T-alleys.
Correct.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Greg Knutson and Devin Sagler of Walker, Drew, and Hani were present to discuss the 2022 audit. We had some very long discussion with them regarding our city finances. After discussion, it was moved and supported to add a line item for review of the monthly financials to the second committee of the whole meeting agendas.
I'll move to approve.
Councillor Paulson moves to approve. Is there support? By Councillor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Brian Silber, our Parks and Recreation Director, was present to discuss the proposal from the Living Well Physical Therapy Group for use of an available room at the fitness facility. Brian Lindsay stated he had reviewed the contract and he did make some changes that you'll see in your packet. After further discussion, it was moved and supported to approve the request for an addendum to the Iron Trail Motors Event Center Fitness Facility Membership Agreement for the use of the fitness room to include placement of equipment with the changes in the document as recommended by the attorney for review at the council meeting today.
Okay, thank you. We had the items that were requested in the packet for prepared for the next council meeting for some clarification. Looking for a motion.
I will make the motion to approve.
Councillor Johnson moves to approve. Is there support?
Support.
By Councillor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So I did go on the website for, I think it's called Well Living. And when I look at the fees that they're actually charging their, I guess, their clients, 60 minutes, if you don't have insurance, you're going to be paying $125 for 60 minutes. 40 minutes, $90, 30 minutes, $75. So what this for-profit entity is looking to do is to relocate a piece of equipment, mainly from what I've been told is because it will not fit into their current, into either one of their current locations. And so then the city is being asked to rent them the facility for $20 for a 2-hour block, when this business entity then can make $125 per 60 minutes per person that they do any physical fitness needs with that person. So my concern is, and I think I'd like the city attorney to clarify, if Brian, if you're still here with us, that by the city agreeing to rent this space to a for-profit entity that's basically going to be conducting business out of a publicly paid-for building, is that legal usage if the building should be used for specifically public usage and not private entity, for-profit entity making a profit off of the sales by renting our building?
Brian, are you on the line?
I do have to say, if I may, Mayor.
Please, Britt.
That is a valid concern, Councilor Paulson, and we are dealing with that right now with some other agreements we have in the state. The state has to review all agreements we have, and we are having that exact discussion with the state of Minnesota as we speak.
No, we are. Yep. And so my concern is that it's not a public, there's already conversations taking place regarding usage agreement versus naming rights versus what have you. I'm just very concerned that we are entering into a contract with a public, I guess, a for-profit company that's actually going to be profiting from the rental of a public facility. And I have very deep concerns about that, and I wish our attorney was present to go over this, because I I won't vote for this, but it's not spending money. And so I just feel like we're going to be in another issue with liability regarding deed and what our agreement was with the state for the public usage of our building. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Paulson. Councillor Motley.
Thank you for bringing that up, Councillor Paulson. Also, I never thought $10 an hour or $20 for 2 hours was ever enough. And I never liked them hanging their sign above our room for free. So thank you. I'll continue to be a no.
Okay, thank you. Do we have Brian on the line by chance? We don't know not anymore. Okay, so look, can't give us an opinion, but he did draft some addendums that he recommended for us to consider. Is that correct? And that's in the packet. Do we have a motion on the floor in support for that?
Mayor?
Sorry. Yes, please, Councillor Paulson.
I may.
Yes,
just
please
for
do.
My comfort level, I'd like to table this for further information from our city attorney.
Support.
Moved by Councillor Paulson to table, supported by Councillor Freelieb. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Silberg continued to inform the council that he was approached by a junior hockey franchise who is now requesting approval to allow staff to begin negotiations with that franchise for the use of the Antrim Motors Event Center.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Councillor Johnson and supported by Councillor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
City Clerk Pam Levine was present to discuss the updated PACE contract for the wastewater treatment plant facility testing. It was moved and supported to direct staff to contact PACE to request to attend the next meeting, but Pam has sent an email to the council. I don't know, Pam, if you want to expound a little more.
Thank you.
Pam?
Yes, I did send an email regarding the information on the proposed contract with PACE. And I did hear back yesterday from Nathan, who is the account rep for PACE and for us. If you would like him, he could either, he was checking with his superiors, if he could attend in person or if he could do a Zoom. If you have more clarification that you want on the contract. But it was, in the email that I sent, it was a 25% increase over the rates that we had in 2019. They did waive the invoice or the minimum fee for testing, and they also decreased their invoice charge from 25 to 10, and the other testing went from 6 to 3. So it's up to you if you want to move forward. Or if you would like more explanation from Nathan on the contract.
Okay, thank you, Pam.
I would make a motion to approve the PACE contract.
Support.
As we've been informed with regard. I felt that I got the necessary information that I'm sure you would just repeat if you were to come here in person anyhow.
And the testing was reviewed by People Service, Mr. Christensen. So all the testing that's on the quote is what is required by at the wastewater plant.
And this is an ongoing necessary contract for us to maintain our wastewater treatment facility.
Okay, moved by Councillor Freelieb and supported by Councillor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Motley.
I would also agree with Councillor Freelieb. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Motley. Has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Discussion was held regarding the purchase of the NeoWater FX 300 chemical for use at the wastewater treatment plant. It was moved and supported to approve the purchase at a cost of $42,200.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Councillor Motley. Is there support?
Support.
By Councillor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to allow staff to research other freight carriers for transport of Neowater FX 300, and Pam does have more information on this as well.
Okay, thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Brett. Yes, so I did send another email out regarding the freight. I spoke with Logan Wary, who is the sales manager for Neo. That is it's a liquid form, obviously, that comes by tanker. There's only specific carriers for that to bring it from Ohio here. They are looking at future, possibly in Wisconsin, for future purchases from there due to the fact that other Minnesota cities will be using this in the future. So, and the $8,000 is just a rough estimate. It depends on weight and gas prices, and so there's a lot of variables that come into play. And as I stated in the email, they were a little less than the 8,000, but it's your choice if you would like to have someone continue researching other carriers.
I will move the resolution to accept the neochemical bids and transportation.
Counselor Johnson moves, huh? Right, yeah, and we did the research, right? And so no motion needs to be made?
Not unless you would like more information on freight carriers, which would take a little more time, so.
Yeah, so we did the research, you gave us the information. No action unless you want us to move forward further and for some further investigation as to those availabilities. Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Pam because I know that was on my, I couldn't believe that it was that expensive. So I really thank you and appreciate you researching that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No motion necessary. Thank you. Britt?
Thank you. It was moved and supported to approve the appointment of Buddy Mill, Tom Hort, and Tom Sear as a floater for team leaders for the Public Works Department for a 2-year term of August 2023 to August 2025.
Okay.
I'll move for discussion.
Move to approve by Counselor Freely for discussion. Is there support? Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Freely?
I see that we've omitted a name that we originally considered, and that's fine. Weren't there 4 names brought forward?
Not for August. We have one in September that has to be posted still.
Say that again?
I don't think there was 4. I think there was 3. 3? Yeah, there's 5 team leaders, but reappointment was just for the 3.
These are the 3 selected
Yes, for August of this,
from
the
the
August
original
one.
that we were provided. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm good.
one expires in September of 2023, so
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Moved and supported, correct? Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Counselor Johnson.
Mayor, I wanted to go back to 191G. Does that mean it's coming? Did we approve? Okay. I just want to make sure we're not, that's where I was confused. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you. It was moved and supported to approve the 2023 transient merchant license for Erica Sundberg, doing business as Buns to Go.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson and supported by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the 3rd annual Range Recovery Night Out on Tuesday, September 12th, 2023, from 4 to 7 p.m. at Alcott Park.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson to approve, supported by Counselor Freely. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
We had some discussion regarding our proposed marijuana ordinance, which also is actually a part of our tobacco ordinance. It was moved and supported to hold a public hearing for the Chapter 6, Section 6.33, Subdivision I, Section 1 of the City Code, the City of Virginia entitled Tobacco, on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, at 9 a.m.
Thank you.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson, supported by
Support.
Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? There'll be more things to be added to this thing. One is that business that's on Second Avenue called Second Avenue Grow Company. There's some issues with respect to that. If you want to address that, Councilor Paulson, but the concern that I have is supposedly a hole in the statute that says it's from seed to harvest. Well, the argument now is that, well, a seed isn't really marijuana. It hasn't blossomed yet, so technically we can sell it without a license. So we're trying to get an opinion on that. The police department is working diligently with other agencies to do so. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you addressing that. I drove by and my daughter actually snapped a picture out of our window as I was surprised that advertisement said seeds. And my concern is the definition of that. And can we put a moratorium until that definition is sorted out? Can we as a city body put a moratorium so that we don't have shops popping up all over Virginia with that same intent to sell seeds or peripherals? The peripherals are fine. We can't stop, we can't prohibit that. But the seeds specifically, and because we don't have that attached to the license, and right now we're discussing at this public hearing basically the tobacco portion of this and basically the smoking where that's going to parallel basically our tobacco ordinance, but that doesn't reflect on what is going on at this new shop. So can we in fact do a moratorium on the sales of seeds until either A, the definition is that it's made clarified by the state, or that until we have zoning or licensing requirements or discussions on that. So I'm just really concerned that people are going to start popping up in different vacant spaces in the city of Virginia, and we have no way to regulate that because we have nothing on the books.
In preparation for this discussion, I did have the opportunity to speak to the Assistant Chief, Chad Nicola, with respect to this, and to two investigators that are doing some research, and they're working with other entities within the state of Minnesota, the legal department for the Attorney General's office to get an opinion and definition of is a seed something that's part of this or not. So they're trying to get a definition and a clarification for all of us. So we hope to get that soon.
So up until that point, could we put a pause until that definition is clarified?
We should ask our city attorney if we can do so.
Because if that's the case, I feel like there's an immediate need to make a motion this evening.
Go ahead.
But I don't know if our city attorney is available.
We can make a motion and have them give us an opinion.
I would like to actually put a moratorium until the definition is clarified.
Okay.
And I don't know if I legally can do that.
Well, we can do it. We can make a motion for our attorney to research if that's feasible for us to do so.
That's not what I want to do.
I know. I realize that.
I think, just to jump in real quick, I know the mayor is discussing the definition of seeds. Is that considered marijuana? Because there is an existing state moratorium. They cannot sell marijuana until January 1st of 2025. So if the seeds are determined to be marijuana, they cannot be selling that.
But even
and there's
if
also
they're
in that
not-
statute, there's also the clause that the cities cannot put a moratorium that you can't sell in your city. So if that seed is defined as marijuana, then we have to give one license per our capacity.
But we haven't even had the opportunity to discuss the licensing part of it.
Nobody
So
has.
This business preemptively did that, took a preemptive position,
Correct.
basically in an unfair, I mean, if you want to look at capitalistic and market, in an unfair advantage to other people who nobody has applied to us for that licensure.
They cannot yet.
And they cannot yet, but yet this place popped up. So I would like to, I don't know, I don't know why we can't do a moratorium.
State statute specifically states cities cannot do a moratorium, but we can control licensing and we can control zoning. And if it's an active current business right now, we can't zone it out. It becomes grandfathered in because our zoning ordinance.
Yep, but that's not, they didn't have the required license.
We don't know that because the definition does not necessarily state seeds. It just states marijuana. So that's where we're looking at this opinion that we're trying to get from the Attorney General.
But regardless, whether it's seeds or marijuana, and I'm sorry I'm splitting hairs, but regardless of that, the actual sale of the product can't happen until January.
2025. Yes, but are the seeds marijuana is the question.
But if they're not, can they sell them anyway? No, not without the proper
If they're
license.
just seeds, it's like a greenhouse. Anybody can sell seeds. But if they're marijuana, they have to follow the marijuana licensing.
I just feel like our city needs to do something before we have more than one of these grandfathered in,
Right.
Well, if
because
I
we
may,
didn't take an action step.
Why don't we just do some research and bring it up at the next committee of whole meeting, see what can we do? Maybe we'll have some more additional information about, from the other cities and from the Attorney General's office, and what that definition is and what we can do about that. This particular place on Second Avenue is going to be a full-service entity on how to cultivate and grow operation with all the necessary equipment in order to be a successful cannabis grower, and not just the seeds, but all the equipment that goes along with it
I
as well, right?
understand that, and
So,
I think
yeah.
my concern that then is one business basically got to do whatever they wanted to do in our city because we didn't have something either A, on our books, or didn't tell them, no, you cannot do this until we have some guidelines. And
Yeah,
I feel like, no, that's not right. And I want to stop that because there will be other entities grandfathered in, and then we will have the same issue as we have sex offenders piled up on the 300 block of Chestnut Street.
We just have to get a legal opinion on what we can do. If we can put a moratorium on that, and I think if we could just get Brian's on the line.
Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, Brian, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've been listening. The connection, I've lost a little bit of it, but I understand that a big part of this conversation deals with what the legal treatment of the seeds will be. At this point, so a couple of comments. Number one, Mayor, I think that your comments are well taken. I have a very strong feeling that we're going to be getting some additional guidance on this, and I believe that it's going to be part of regulations that come out once the cannabis office is up and running with the state. The second comment that I wanted to make is that grandfathering in the sale of seeds isn't as much a concern for me as some of the other things, because once the definition for seeds is issued, they will be treated by the law as opposed to zoning. So if we prohibit the sale of cannabis products in certain areas, and somebody's selling seeds in those areas, and then the regulation comes out or the definition comes out and says, well, seeds are actually considered cannabis, then it will fall within the ordinance that prohibits it. So just the sale of seeds, I'm not as concerned about becoming a grandfathered activity.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I'd like to know if maybe the word I should choose is not moratorium. Maybe the better word is cease and desist this one specific entity from the sales of seed products until such time as the definition and or that we have our zoning in place or licensing. I'd like to do this now before something else happens.
Brian? Get you any of that?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think based on Councilor Paulson's comments, I think Councilor moratorium actually would be the correct word. I think what we want to do is place a moratorium on the sale of seed form until we can get a better definition.
Okay, thank you. So we can make a motion in that regard. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion.
On what?
The public hearing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Pam.
Moved and supported with respect to the public hearing. Is there any further discussion on setting that date? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Pam. Next motion.
Thank you. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to, maybe Brian needs to help me craft this so it's proper.
Mayor, if I may.
Brian?
Thank you. If Councilor, if your intent is to start the process of the moratorium or the prohibition on the sale of seeds, I think really the only way forward at this point would be to make a motion directing staff to prepare such a document because it would have to be passed by ordinance.
Very good. Okay, that would be the motion. Thank you.
Okay, got that motion, Pam? Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Motley. Further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Is our other moratorium still in place
Yes. till
from a year
November.
ago?
Till November.
And so my concern is the ability to enforce, we're not able to enforce the current moratorium whatsoever. I appreciate what you're trying to accomplish. I just don't see the validity in making staff do more work when we already technically have a moratorium in place. And then the enforcement of that as well. Like, I don't know, I would want to have more information about how do we enforce it? How do we make them not sell their seeds? Because right now we are terrible at not enforcing don't sell things at multiple stores in this town because of the challenge and the legalities and the definitions accordingly. So I don't feel this is the time to support making staff do that work until we have something to work from. So I respect it, but I will not be supporting the moratorium. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion?
Thank you, Mayor.
Counselor Paulson?
I would like just to add that in my intent is that so these places can't just all of a sudden pop up. And I feel like we are going to be bombarded. I have a friend of mine in Colorado that their little community got bombarded because they didn't have things on the books in time, and then things got grandfathered in. So I would like to, I'm not trying to make staff work any harder, but we need to have some enforcement here. Otherwise, our community is going to turn into something that we don't recognize anymore. And that's a very big concern to me. And this business should have gone through the proper procedures, in my opinion. If they're selling this product, that's not actually probably legal yet to sell. So right away, they've done something right out of the chute. So I guess the reason I'm asking for this to happen is to wait until the definition is created, and then we have a pause to allow us to say, okay, now how do we want to treat this issue with the seeds? So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'm sorry, Counselor Beyondich.
Which brings up, how will this be monitored and handled? When we do this, when this passes?
Well, we have to establish by ordinance, so we're just putting together the necessary mechanism in place to prepare the ordinance. This has to be enforceable by ordinance. We can't do it right now. We're just preparing the documents for that.
Okay, thank you.
Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson, then Counselor Friedlieb.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I guess I didn't understand. So we're actually creating an ordinance, which I don't know that that's going to be effective because whatever the state says and whatever the Office of Cannabis Management says is what's going to trump everything. So what I'm looking to do, Brian, our city attorney, is I'm looking to I'm not looking to create an ordinance. I'm looking to put a pause until the definition and the zoning, or would it be licensing? What am I trying to say? Those requirements are defined, and that we will not, like this business, I would actually do, I don't know that what you need to enforce. You just need to cease and desist that they can't sell seeds any longer. They can still sell plant lights and nutrients and what have you that they're going to be selling. But I feel like the concern that I have is that they bypassed the loop. They found the loophole, and other people are going to find this same loophole. So I'm not sure that I want to create an ordinance. I want to create a pause. So Brian, how do I actually do that? And could we redraft the motion?
What is the motion? Read it back, would you please, Pam?
Moved by Counselor
Mayor, if I
Paulson.
may?
We're going to read back the motion real quick.
Okay,
Read back the motion, please.
Moved by Counselor Paulson, supported by Counselor Motley, to allow staff to draft an ordinance to implement a moratorium on the sale of cannabis seeds within the city.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
thank you, Mayor. I think to prevent this activity from occurring, we'll need, from a legal tool standpoint, I think what you're going to need is some sort of an ordinance, whether it's an amendment to the current moratorium that exists, just to make sure that it's clear that that the city, for purposes of the moratorium, intended that seeds be excluded also, or whether it's a standalone ordinance to regulate the specific activity. But simply making a resolution or a motion, I don't think would have a sufficient legal force to prohibit the sale of those seeds.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Paulson?
I guess I'm at a loss then what to do.
Do what we're...
I'm just at a loss of what, because by the time you go through the first reading and second reading and all of that, the definition's probably going to be already done and over with.
Maybe we start the process going in that direction. If we get an opinion from the state of Minnesota that says otherwise, then we don't move forward.
I guess I'd be okay with that.
That makes sense.
Again, I don't like Counselor Johnson. I'm not trying to take city staff time to do this if it's a moot point in the end result. I just am trying to prevent other shops coming in and setting up this way because there is a loophole. And then the city of Virginia has the repercussions because of that.
And that's what a lot of cities are trying to do now. They're trying to gravitate through just what we're trying to gravitate through here. And they're waiting for attorney clarification at the legislative level from the Attorney General's office, and the police departments are working with the League of Minnesota Cities and others to try to establish an opinion as to what those seeds really mean. So until we get that opinion, if you want to take action prior to getting that opinion, this would be the route that's recommended by our attorney.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for allowing me the time. And I guess I'm comfortable moving forward then.
Okay, very good. Thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion, roll call, please, Pam.
Beyondich? Johnson?
No.
Baranzelli? Cuffey?
Aye.
Motley? Friedlieb?
No.
Paulson?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is it 5-2? Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. At the committee of the whole, we had discussion regarding blight and staffing in the blight department. It was moved and supported to direct city staff to work with the employees to develop a creative solution to control blight issues in the city.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
We had discussion regarding creation of a policy on usage of the city logo on marketing materials. It was moved and supported to allow staff to develop a policy on city-sponsored events held in the city and how the city logo will be used in conjunction with the event.
Looking for a motion? Looking for a motion? Looking for a motion?
I'll make that motion for discussion.
Councilor Johnson makes the motion to approve the development of a city policy regarding this. Is there support for that motion?
All support for discussion.
Support by Councilor Freely for further discussion. Further discussion, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. I just wanted to voice that what I would like to see is a policy that's inclusive and allows us to support so much in the city. Over the last week, taken some time to really look at what we do for multiple organizations in this town, and we are an integral part of numerous activities that bring in significant financial support to the city. So I know at the meeting, there was some concern that we just not use it for anything but city business, and I'm not supportive of that specific part of it, but would rely on staff to come up with something that's fair and equitable for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Johnson. It has been moved and supported. Further discussion. Councilor Free, did you have some further discussion?
Not really. I think he summarized it quite well. I think, are we talking about the actual canopy that we're using for when we represent the city at these different events? Because I don't know what else expands beyond that. That's my impression is we've taken that canopy, which has our logo on it, and we're essentially not necessarily sponsoring or supporting the event that we're at. We're representing the city of Virginia at that event. And I think that's been very beneficial to the constituents that have attended the events as well as the city. It's been a reciprocal thing. So when I interpret what we're trying to accomplish, that's what I picture is utilizing that city logo canopy that we've used to provide literature and information about the city. I have no problem with us utilizing that in the way that we have for all the events that we've been at this point. If it's more than that, I need to know that it's more than that.
Thank you, Councilor Free. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm not necessarily in support of city sponsor on a policy that discusses sponsored events, which is what I had stated at our last committee of the whole. I think we need to stay out of the sponsorship business. And I feel like it should be, the city logo should just be used for city business. That's now, when I looked at, so I'm going to pick on the Brewfest. When I looked at the Brewfest pamphlet, the City of Virginia logo is on the bottom, kind of right hand, not completely in the corner. And I just don't know that the city should be sponsoring different events. I just feel like the logo should be used on city, for city business documents only, and the city should be out of the sponsorship business. That's the way I feel. Otherwise, again, you're picking and choosing. I understand when I appreciate what you're saying about fair and equitable, or, I do understand that. But again, that is very subjective. And if we have groups that come in that are I would say there's different groups that will come forward, and I don't want to have the responsibility of choosing and picking and choosing. So for me, I think the city should be out of sponsoring any event, and I feel like the city logo should only be used with city business. So I don't necessarily support crafting a policy regarding the word sponsorship. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I think we're trying to get to the same, some consistency. So by allowing staff to develop a policy, it could be sponsorship, should be no sponsorship events, but establish a policy, bring it forward to us, have us take a look at it, and we make changes, amendments, or whatever you want to do to craft it so that it's amenable and understandable and for all of us. So I think that's the motion on the floor. And was it moved and supported? Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
Based on what Councilor Paulson said, maybe the motion would be more appropriate for just use of city logo and leave out anything else other than use of the city logo, and then have some definitions of what's the difference between the library logo, the AdMet logo, or VPU's logo, those kinds of things. So I would amend my motion to just take out the sponsorship and just use of city logo.
Sure. Okay, thank you. That's your amended on the motion. Is the second, would you amend your second to that motion?
Is a policy necessary? Are we still considering that a policy needs to be put in place with regard to that?
Well, we've directed staff to develop one for us to consider.
It would be helpful for staff to have one so we have something to either fall back on or something to look at when we get these requests.
And that policy will exclude sponsorship.
It'll just be a policy for when to use our logo.
Thank you. And yes, I'm willing to move forward with a second on that.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Motley?
I also agree with Counselor Paulson. I've had a solid week plus to think about the logo usage with the City of Virginia, and I think the City of Virginia logo should only be used for City of Virginia business and keep us out of everything else. I feel like if our logo was taken off of any other event, I don't think it's going to make or break the event regardless. So to keep us out of any future problems going forward where somebody may or may not like where our logo is used, I just say put our logo on City of Virginia business only and have no logo policy whatsoever. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So it has been supported to draft a policy with respect to the use of the city logo. Is there any further discussion? A hearing, Councilor Freely.
So I'd like to know the consensus on what city business is as it relates to our city representing itself with the logo of the canopy at all of these events that we've been doing over the years. Will we continue to do so? And if not, why not? I mean, I think it's been beneficial for the city of Virginia to represent the city of Virginia at any and all events that have been held in the city of Virginia, as well as down at the state fair. So if we're going to stop doing that, I don't understand what we're trying to accomplish. We would be, like, if city business means only like letterheads and official documents and city business, and it doesn't refer to us representing the city of Virginia at multiple events using like the canopy that has the logo on it, I think we're going to be taking steps way backwards in regard to representing the city of Virginia to a broad range of constituents, not only in the city of Virginia, but throughout the entire state. So I think we have a nice thing going with what we provide to these events, which is essentially representing our city at these events so people know about our city and they receive literature and pamphlets and other information with regard to our city. It has nothing to do with anything regarding whether they're advocating on behalf of the event that they're at or representing or, you know, so in any event, I think we have a good thing going with what we have when we set up our canopy and provide information to the event participants. And I'd hate to see that end for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think, again, the policy, the movement supported to establish the policy. We'll get a policy, we'll discuss it, we'll vet all that stuff out. Staff says they want to have a policy, we should have one. So we have a clear, concise definition of how we use it. Could be anything. But I think the point is to have that policy in place. Whatever that says, it's up for us to determine the verbiage of that. So staff is going to provide us a policy for us to consider.
Good.
Thank you. Councilor Beyondich.
I was just going to clarify the motion.
Thank you. Would you please read back the motion, Pam?
Moved by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Friedlieb to allow staff to develop a policy on the use of the city logo.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final motion from that meeting was to approve the resolution authorizing the City of Virginia to make application to and accept funds from the Department of Iron Range Resources for the AUA headquarters facility elevator upgrade project.
Moved by Counselor Beyondich and supported by Counselor, Counselor Paulson? Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
No further items from that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Britt. Move to item 10, Commission Liaison Reports. Does anyone have a Commission Liaison report they'd like to convey this evening? Counselor Motley.
So this is from the Parks and Rec last Wednesday, a short 2.5-hour meeting, somewhere around there. So Park and Recreation Commission met last Wednesday. We discussed possible naming of the scores table, but instead decided to rehang the place from the miners honoring Al Milbridge and create a similar one for John Kempinen. Discussed requesting funds to convert outdoor skating rinks into dog parks. Proposed rate increases for the ITMEC and parks that will be coming to the council next month. This past weekend was the Alcott Park Brewfest with 960 paid participants, raising over $20,000 for future park projects. Thank you to the Brewfest Committee and the volunteers for making this event possible. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, thank you, Councilor Motley. Any other commission liaison reports to give this evening? Okay, we'll move to item 11, department head reports. We'll start from my left to right. Britt, anything else to disseminate this evening? Okay, thank you. Brian, our city attorney, if you're still on the line, any words or any comments or concerns or anything you'd like to convey to the council this evening?
I apologize, Mayor, no formal report.
Thank you, Brian. Pam, anything?
No, I do not. Mayor.
Sherry? Jenny? Okay, thank you. All right. Jody is the last department head that's available this evening. Jody Grabanowski, our library director. Jody, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Mine is actually really quick. Summer reading is over. We only have 2 events this week. We will be at the farmers market on the 24th at 2:30 with staff from the Sudan mine, just talking about what's happening this fall at the library, at the mine. And then there's also an author reading along with the illustrator for the book Lost on the 4th of July, and that one is actually at the Lyric. So both events that the library is involved in this week aren't in the library. We are elsewhere. We are open Saturdays again, so that is we were open this past Saturday from 10 to 2, and of course this coming Saturday will be open 10 to 2, but then we have a holiday, so right after school, so we will be open our full 6 days a weeks again, and then in a couple weeks, I'll come back and tell you what's happening for September. The other big thing is the Friends of the Library will have their annual book sale. They are going to have only 2 days of drop-off. We'll have more information about that soon. They're going to drop off on they are going to do Monday, the 11th of September, and Tuesday, the 12th of September from 10 to 5. We'll have signage out the door. We'll put on the webpage when we know more, and it will also be on the Friends website. So the sale itself is 4 days, Thursday through Sunday. So I think we will be in the ballroom, and I do believe there'll be over 80 tables of books. So that's what I have.
Thank you very much, Jody. Okay, any other department head reports to disseminate this evening? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 12 on the agenda, which are the council reports. Does any councilor like to give a report this evening? We'll go from right to left. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. Well, I'll just read this. After our meeting last Tuesday with the auditor, I have great concern about our city finances and where we are headed. Keeping in mind, taxpayers are concerned about maintaining our public safety, police, fire, ambulance, and also public works, our infrastructure. A motion was made and passed to include the city finances on the committee of the whole agenda monthly. And I see that we have some updated financials here. It's important to show the 2023 budget and the total spending in each department, all overtime hours, and the cost of paying that out. What is anticipated for the remainder of 2023, a cash investment report, transfers in and out of the general fund, and the balance. We need to prioritize what we are doing in the city. Public safety is very important to our constituents. We have our public safety building being built, and we need to keep that in mind. The auditor gave each of us a list of eight paragraphs to work on. This is our job. We are accountable to our taxpayers. At the end of our audit report, the management letter, these are the 8 bullet points that when and I have asked for a finance committee before, and it was felt it wasn't needed, which is actually better, that all these finances now are coming to the full council. This is our job. This is what we are elected to do by our constituents. We also received an email this afternoon from a constituent. I don't know if I should read that. It was addressed to the mayor and the council, outlining the concerns of the people that were watching our meeting. We can brush this off as if it was nothing. It is something. I, for one, take it I'm very disheartened. And I feel we really do need to work on this. We need to get our house in order. So I just wanted to get that out to the public. We need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Beyondich. I know we're all concerned about the audit report, and I know we all got that email from the constituents and others. And so, yes, that's our goal and objective, is to make sure our finances are solid moving forward. So we have some challenges ahead. Thank you. Okay, any other council reports we give this evening? Seeing none, I have one item I'd like to bring up, and that is, well, first of all, I want to thank Revive Virginia, all the sponsors of the Brewfest. I had the opportunity to work there on Saturday. It was a phenomenal event. Everybody worked hard there. All the participants that were there, it was a blast. The music was phenomenal. They raised a lot of money for park activities, and those volunteers, I can't thank them enough for everything they've done. And Brian Silber and his staff, outstanding work. Very good work. They worked hard from early in the morning until late at night. When I opened at 9:30, they were still working there. So thanks very much. What a very successful event, and look forward to it again next year. So everybody who participated in that and who slaved away, the committees that did everything, unbelievable. This is what the kind of activities the city of Virginia needs, that those strong community events, grassroots things that make this community a great place to live and work. So thank you. I did get a letter dated August 2nd from the League of Minnesota Cities. It's addressed to me, and I was asked to disseminate to the rest of the council. I'll just read it. A Representative Davis Lizlegard, who represents your city at the state legislature, has been selected as the League of Minnesota Cities Legislator of Distinction for 2023. The League's Board of Directors recognized a total of 35 legislators this year from the state of Minnesota, including 20 House members and 15 Senate members, for their actions and leadership on a wide variety of legislative issues of importance to the cities across our state. This enclosed letter describes the specific reasons for why our legislator, Representative Dave Lizlegard, was chosen for this recommendation. A copy of this letter is printed and the certificate has been sent to your legislator as well. And so here's the letter. On behalf of the League 838 member cities, I want to thank you for your efforts this past legislative session and to recognize you as a League Minnesota Cities 2023 Legislator of Distinction. League staff and member city officials appreciate your accessibility and your consultation with us on legislation impacting cities. Specifically, the League appreciates your chief authoring the bill to increase local government aid and index it to the inflation and taking a lead role in passing the $80 million annual increase that was included in the final bill. You were also instrumental in ensuring the final tax bill included a strong package to address rising property taxes through both aid to the cities and direct property tax relief to taxpayers. You regularly checked in with cities to see what their concerns were and opposed unfunded mandates while remaining a strong supporter of local control. League staff appreciates your awareness of city needs and look forward to working with you in the future on issues impacting local government, aid, and units of government. Our members know that to be successful in serving our common constituents, state and city officials must work together as partners to reach solutions that meet the unique needs of rural, suburban, and urban communities across Minnesota. City leaders also understand that without the support of legislative leaders like you, the state-local partnership would not be possible. To acknowledge your contributions last session, mayors of each city in your legislative district will receive this notification of your recognition. A press release will also be issued to the media in your area, and city officials and League staff look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. Sincerely, Jenny Max, City Administrator of Nisswa and the President of the League of Minnesota Cities. Great letter. Thank you. Representative Lizagard. Anything else anybody has to offer? Seeing no other business to come before the city council this evening, we will stand adjourned to our next meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, September 12th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. Have a great day, everybody.